talk to me about why Trump is resonating with the working class of America in a way Republicans haven't in a long time. I know the Teamsters supported Reagan, right? They supported George H.W. Bush, but it's been a long dry spell between Trump and the Teamsters, or not Republicans and the Teamsters, for a good reason. So what's changing right now that's connecting so much with your members?
Well, I think what's important is to look back over the last 20 years. The Democrats controlled 16 out of the last 20 years, and we didn't get anything done. I mean, you look at the Obama administration. During the Obama administration, you had a full Democratic House, Senate, and President. Our biggest objective was to pass the Employee Free Choice Act, which would make it easy to organize, card check neutrality, no retribution or retaliation for joining a union. And remember, people forget, all these bad trade deals that were done under the Clinton administration have come to surface because of the Trump administration. And we are finally realizing that we lost a lot of jobs. We lost a lot of manufacturing. We lost a lot of goods and services that were produced in this country. So I think that's part of the problem. That's part of the reason why there's a gravitation towards a Trump. Plus, look, I think, and you look at the narrative from the Chuck Schumers of the world in the 90s, and you look at the Hillary Clinton 2008 narrative on immigration, it's all in line with what President Trump is doing right now. So it's not that the American people or the American worker has changed their morals and their beliefs. We've remained constant. It's the Democratic Party who has flipped the script and embraced billionaires, have embraced technology, and embraced everything that they once hated. And now they're criticizing tariffs and things that may be able to bring good American jobs back here. I think that's one of the reasons why. And President Trump, do I agree with everything he does? Absolutely not. But do I agree with what he's been doing? I mean, look, I'll tell you this, for the Teamsters Union, whenever there's a decision made on labor or how potentially this could benefit or hurt organized labor, he calls us. They call the Teamsters Union. And we've had frank discussions on certain things. And that's what it's about, having a dialogue. And it's great. I mean, look, the most recent thing is this taxing and tariffing these motion picture companies that are taking
I want to talk to you about that.
Taking jobs out of the United States and going to Europe and Paris and masquerading Paris as New York City. Those people should be paying, or those companies should be paying a tax for that. And he called me up and he said, look, Sean, I want to do this. Do you mind working with John Voight and some other folks in Hollywood? Because we represent, a vast number of members that work in Hollywood, Teamster members. And I said, absolutely not. He goes, push as hard as you can. I want to make this happen. So how do you criticize someone that is calling you up saying, hey, I want to bring American jobs back here. Please do me a favor, push as hard as you can. We'll work together on this. Now, there's some other unions that, maybe upset federal employees where there's been significant layoffs. And that's layoffs are tough, and I get that. But the reality is, from the Teamsters perspective, when, our members are fighting to protect jobs and keep good American jobs in this country, and the president is calling us up saying, this is what we want to do, I think it's a pretty good start. It's more than we've gotten in the past. And like I said, the Democrats were in charge for 16 out of the last 20 years.
Well, I got to show you. This is how you criticize it. So Robert De Niro, who's got a severe case of the TDS, is in conference right now, as all of the muckety-mucks are. And he's very unhappy about what Trump is doing to try to keep filmmaking, American filmmaking, in America by slapping tariffs on foreign-made films so that he can basically try to force people to make them domestically again for the American audience that they're meant to serve. And here's what De Niro said on Tuesday.
America's Philistine president has had himself appointed head of one of our premier cultural institutions. He has cut funding and support to the arts, humanities, and education. And now he has announced a 100% tariff on films produced outside the U.S. Let that sink in for a minute. You can't put a price on creativity, but apparently you can put a tariff on it. Of course, this is unacceptable. All these attacks are unacceptable. And this isn't just an American problem. It's a global one.
What do you make of that?
Well, it's a global problem because it's the greediness of these studios and some of these actors that, make a lot more money overseas than they would here. But I look at the film industry in the United States, and my father worked in the film industry in Boston. He was a transportation coordinator for the Teamsters union. So I know a little bit about it. I look at the film industry as we have some of the most creative people in the world in the United States that have been making movies for hundreds of years. And I look at the film industry in America as like Major League Baseball is America's sport. You can't put the Boston Red Sox in Great Britain and call them the Boston Red Sox, right? So, people should look at filmmaking as the same as they would look at America's sport. We are at the forefront. We have a great opportunity to create hundreds upon thousands of jobs. And the film industry not only creates hundreds of thousands of jobs, there's also a residual benefit or indirect benefit from all the goods and services, supplies, restaurants, hotels within the United States and employ millions of people. So that's the thought process. I mean, Robert De Niro, I've seen some of his antics. I was a big fan of his, but I'm a big fan of keeping American people working. And again, American films are right up there with American baseball. It's American sport.
Well, and it's like, how long has it been since Robert De Niro knew what it was to be working class and to understand what it was like to worry about where your next paycheck's coming from, how you're going to pay the mortgage at the end of the month? He's not thinking about your guys at all, right? He's talking about how Donald Trump's a Philistine, meaning he doesn't understand modern culture and, cultural and the culture and the arts the way Robert De Niro does, you see.
Well, I think it's a great example of hooray for me, fuck everybody else, because if you look at average Hollywood actors, and we supported SAG, Screen Actors Guild, on their strike, there's only 4 or 5% of actors making the Robert De Niro, that type of money. Most people that film a movie, you give 35% to your agent, to whatever other payout you have to make.
Your PR.
Yeah, your manager, PR, and everything else, right? So at the end of the day, these folks, they make a 16-week movie. The average person that's an actor or an actress makes a movie 16 weeks. They're making the minimal, and they're unemployed in 16 weeks. So it's easy for him to say, or to get on his soapbox and pontificate about creativity and everything else. The guy's worth $200 million, and you got some poor stiff that's actually very talented, trying to make a living, grind out a living in LA or New York. Again, talk about not being in touch. And I guarantee you, if it came to Robert De Niro working behind a strike to make some money, there'd be clear choice. He would cross that picket line, because he's actually crossing a picket line right now by going overseas and doing American film work where it should be done in America, not overseas.
Yeah. The nerve of him saying it from Cannes, France, of all places, my God. Trump has been so good about trying to pressure American companies into bringing business back here. And there's no better example of that in the news recently than Apple. It's really kind of an outrage. Literally almost everybody has one of these devices, right? One of these Apple phones. They're by far the dominant product that we use for our phones. It's an American company. It was born in America. It was invented by an American. And they make all of the phones over in China and now India. They don't make any of them here. Those could be actual well-paying jobs for real live Americans. Talk about a living wage. It could be a great wage. They don't want to pay it because they can buy, making it labor for cheap in China, in India. So Trump let it slip this week that he had a tense phone call. He's over in the Middle East right now. He was in Qatar, and he kind of went off on a side about a phone call he just had with Tim Cook, the CEO. Take a listen to this, Top 5.
Apple, as you know, is coming in. And I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I said, Tim, look, we've treated you really good. We put up with all the plants that you built in China for years. Now you got to build us. We're not interested in you building in India. India can take care of themselves.
And then he said Apple is going to be upping their production in the United States, though he didn't provide further details. How do you feel about it?
Well, I think he's spot on as far as American companies doing work overseas. You can create these jobs and infrastructure in the United States. And I think the problem is, you get back to the corporate greed and the wage disparity between, the CEOs and the people that are actually providing the labor in the United States. Although it's much cheaper to go overseas and do it. I don't think it's that cheap. It should be viewed as being cheaper. I think bring those jobs back here, take a little bit more off your bottom line and give it to your workers, and I think it'll be fine. I mean, that's what we're supposed to be. CEOs shouldn't be making 2,000 times more than an American worker, especially when the American worker is doing all the work. So
Well,
I think it's
and
a
even
great
the company.
narrative.
It's
Yeah,
like
I mean,
Apple's one of the most successful companies in world history. Like, I wonder what the difference would be if they paid Americans a real living wage versus giving a bunch of Chinese and Indians some not great wage. Like, okay, they'd probably have a smaller profit margin, but you'd be giving real jobs to your fellow countrymen.
right, the profit margin would shrink. There's no doubt about that. But you'd actually be providing opportunity for people in this country, opportunity to have, nice homes, good educations for their children. What's wrong with reinvesting in the American people, even if, it costs you a little bit more in a profit? And, look, you know, I think the one thing is, and Trump was criticized saying he was beholden to Wall Street while he was running. Clearly, he hasn't given two shits about Wall Street right now because of, he's announced these tariffs. He's announced a lot of things that have shook Wall Street. And it's a good thing. I mean, I talk about it all the time. I'm like, I care about Main Street before Wall Street any day of the week. And that's where people should be focused in these corporations that American-based, but provide their labor in a third world nation. That's what they should be focused on as well. Main Street, not Wall Street.
This July, speaking of resets, there's a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio. This bloc of emerging superpowers, including China, Russia, India, and Iran, are meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. They're calling this the Rio Reset. As BRICS nations push forward with their plans, some worry global demand for U.S. dollars will decrease, bringing down the value of dollars in your savings. While this transition will not happen overnight, the Rio Reset could mark a pivotal moment. So learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free, no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and the Rio Reset. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.